I never met the guy, but I still think about him. Strange, right? We've pulled a lot of people out of the woods, some frozen, some starving, some dead. Some we never found at all, but this one stuck with me. Maybe because when the call came in, everything felt normal. Sunday normal, same as always. In search and rescue, you get used to everything. You hear about all kinds of things. This call sounded like all the others. A missing hiker in a popular park. Nothing special. Text came in Sunday afternoon. Male, about 30, hiking with a friend. Started feeling lousy. They were close to the car. A mile, maybe less. The guy sat down and asked his friend to run back for meds and come right back. The friend did. Came back. And the guy was gone. Vanished. At first, I didn't stress. The park's got trails everywhere. Some easy, some that lead into the backcountry. But this isn't the Rockies. People get lost here all the time. 99% turn up in a couple of hours, a little embarrassed but alive. I figured this would be the same. We linked up with the first wave at the trailhead. A few volunteers, a coordinator, 2 rangers. Sun was dropping, smelled like rain somewhere across the valley. Warm for early fall. Perfect hiking weather, if you don't get lost. The missing guy's friend was pacing by the signboard, raking his hands through his hair. Hadn't sat down since his buddy disappeared. Felt bad for him. Guy probably felt guilty, but nobody was at fault. It happens. I was gone an hour, tops, he kept saying. 2 at most. He was sitting right there, right there. I nodded, logged it mentally. No reason not to believe him. Not yet. We moved fast. Quick search first. The logical spots, the places people usually turn up. He'd been on a marked trail. A popular trail, for God's sake. How far could he have gone? Maybe he stepped off to pee and twisted something. A dozen theories spun in my head. Didn't matter. He wasn't anywhere. The sun kept sinking. A voice inside started whispering. This wouldn't be easy. Then, maybe 30 feet off the trail, I saw it, half buried in leaves. A phone. Not just any phone. His phone. I waved the team over. Heartbeat kicked. There was a pack nearby, too. Small stuff scattered. Trash, a sock, a protein bar wrapper. At first we thought good sign. People's things usually mean the person is close. Maybe he stepped away to take a leak. Maybe went for water. Maybe sat down somewhere else, disoriented. Still alive. Then we noticed something was off. The phone wasn't cracked or dirty like it had been dropped in a panic. It was placed there, like someone wanted us to follow a trail. More stuff scattered nearby. A tiny plastic baggie, a bent straw. Small things, until you see them together. Then the whole picture changes. Meth. It clicked for the coordinator the same second it did for me. We'd done this long enough to recognize the signs. If he was using, it explained a lot. Why he started acting strange. Meth makes you paranoid. Meth makes you run. And if the crash hits, you'll do anything for 60 seconds alone to score that feeling again. The problem is, if you run deep enough into the woods, you don't always make it back. Still, there was hope. We figured we'd find him soon. He couldn't have gone far. The sun dropped for good. The trees swallowed the last light. More people rolled in. Volunteers, mounted teams, dogs. Rangers pushed the perimeter. We moved in coordinated sweeps through the timber. Nothing. We called his name over and over. Nothing. No broken branches, no tracks, no sounds besides wind and animals, like the ground had swallowed him. The coordinator and I compared notes with other teams, trying to think of any reason for the baggie and the straw, anything else they could be used for. We came up empty. When we checked the bag again, there were clear traces of white powder everywhere. By midnight, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath in the weak cone of my headlamp. The dark got heavy, thick, absolute. My stomach flipped. The guy was gone, and we weren't going to find him. Far off, a dog barked, one of ours. Heart rate spiked. Handlers were running scent off his phone, looping wide arcs through the forest. Maybe the dogs finally had something. I radioed in. Contact? Silence. Then, negative. I exhaled and rubbed my eyes. The dog had something, but not him. A few hours later, one of the mounted teams reported movement on the ridge, a quick flicker of a silhouette beyond the search line. They called out. No answer. When they tried to close the gap, it slipped back into the trees. Could have been an animal. Moonlight playing tricks. That's not what rattled me. It was how they described it. Fast, one writer said. Real fast. Like it knew we were there and didn't want to be found. Cold ran down my spine. Meth can trigger the strangest behavior you can imagine. We even have a term for it. People who don't want to be rescued. It happens, especially with users. Paranoia takes the wheel. They see rescuers as a threat instead of help. They hide. They run. And in uniform, we probably look like cops. Too often, they die that way. Dodge help long enough in the wrong season, and by morning, you're dead. Day 2 blurred into mud, sweat, and radio chatter. We covered miles and miles. More teams joined. A helicopter skimmed the treetops, scanning the ground. Nothing. By day 3, morale shifted. I don't get it, a ranger muttered to me. He can't just disappear. But that's exactly what was happening. The dogs lost the trail. The search area ballooned. Acres that should have given us something. A scrap of clothing. A track. Anything. But nothing. And the worst part, I started to feel like he was still out there. Not dead. Not yet. Watching. Couldn't shake it. By the 4th night, I'd barely slept. Just lay in my tent at base camp staring at the nylon ceiling. I wasn't the only one. Some night shift volunteers swore they heard footsteps along the outer edge of camp. Others reported strange sounds in the trees. Branches cracking, a low murmur just beyond the reach of our lights. One guy even claimed he heard someone coughing over the hill, clearing a throat, hawking something up. It wasn't one of us. It was someone out there, in the dark. I lay there thinking about it, trying to tell myself it was an animal, or the wind, or just exhaustion, but my brain kept whispering something else. What if he really was out there? What if he was watching our tents right now, standing between the trees, shivering, hiding, afraid of us? Or maybe not afraid. Maybe he just didn't want to be found. Maybe he thought we were the enemy. Maybe he didn't remember why he was here. Maybe he forgot who he was. I rolled onto my side and tried to push it away, but the thought stuck. What if we weren't searching for a lost person, but for someone actively running from us, playing his own game? No longer the person his friends knew. I thought about the friend who came back to an empty spot on the trail. What he must have felt. Horror, guilt, fear. Then I asked myself, what if the guy disappeared on purpose? What if he waited for his friend to leave so he could slip into the woods and use? Then why didn't he come back? Overdose? Disorientation? Or something else? I tried to imagine his headspace. Friend walks away. He's alone. He pulls a stash, hands shaking, rushing, thinking only about one thing, to numb out. Takes a hit, then what? Euphoria? Panic? Paranoid thoughts? Maybe he heard something in the woods. Thought someone was coming, thought his friend was back early and would catch him. So he ran. Deeper into the trees, forgot his gear, forgot everything, just ran, and then couldn't find the way back, or didn't want to. I thought about what meth does to the brain, how it shreds logic, plants threats where there aren't any, turns people into paranoids. Maybe he thought we were here to arrest him. Maybe he thought we weren't real. Maybe he had no idea what was happening, living in a private, hallucinated world where the forest was home and we were the enemy. Or maybe he understood perfectly, and that's what terrified him. Understood the mess he'd made, knew he was lost, knew a whole operation was out here searching. And the shame, so heavy it was easier to hide than step out. Easier to die in the woods than face your friends, your family, the rescuers. Easier to become a ghost. I thought about his family, how they didn't know where he was, how they were waiting for a call, how every hour without news was killing them by inches, and he might have been a mile away, hearing us call his name and saying nothing. Standing behind a tree, silent. The thought choked me. I slid out of my bag and stepped from the tent. The night was freezing, stars sharp and bright, the forest a wall of black. I swept my flashlight into the dark. The beam hit trunks and stopped. Beyond that, nothing but black. I said his name, quietly, didn't even know why, just said it. In case he was close, in case he heard, in case he'd answer. Silence. Just wind in the branches. I stood there and listened. Tried to hear breathing, a scrape, anything. Only wind, or not. There was something else. Faint, barely there. Maybe a twig snapping, maybe footsteps, maybe my imagination. I swung the flashlight that way. Nothing, just trees. But the feeling didn't lift, hung in the air like smoke. You know it's there, you just can't find the source. I stood another minute, then went back to the tent, zipped into the bag, closed my eyes. Didn't sleep. I listened. All night I listened. Every sound outside pulled me tight. Every rustle turned into footsteps in my head, into a presence. I kept thinking, if he really is out there, he's not sleeping either. He's listening to us, watching, waiting for us to leave so he can come out, or waiting for us to get close so he can run farther. Hide and seek. But one player doesn't want to be found, and the other doesn't know the rules. By day 5, we were winding down. Searches can't run forever. Still no sign. Nothing moving in the trees. Command made the call. Enough hours spent, survival odds near zero, resources needed elsewhere. Shut it down. We packed gear. Volunteers shook their heads, grumbling about how a simple search turned into all this. I just stood at the trailhead and stared into the woods, a knot twisting inside. Somewhere out there, the guy was probably still running. A week passed, then 2, then a month. No trace. Rangers kept the case open, but over time the searches became a box to check. No one expected to find him, not after 5 days without food, no shelter, and night temps dipping dangerously low. But I couldn't shake the feeling we weren't looking for a body. So I stayed in touch with the teams. Now and then a message came through, still nothing. Then the strange report started. A month after we stood down, a hiker stepped forward. Said he'd been on a wild spur trail and saw a man crouched behind a blowdown watching him. When the hiker called out, the man bolted into the trees, so fast the guy barely processed what he'd seen. The description matched. Pale, filthy. Same clothes our missing hiker wore. Rangers checked it out. Found nothing. 2 months later, a camper at a remote site woke to find his gear rummaged. Not stolen, just moved around. Food untouched. But a flashlight was gone. He reported it. And again, the description lined up. A thin man with empty eyes flickering between trees. There 1 second, gone the next. Jeans, flannel shirt. Those were the last solid sightings. Then winter came. If he was living out there on nothing, that should have been the end. That's what I told myself, tried to believe. But sometimes in the field I still catch myself looking over my shoulder, thinking about those nights we heard something circling camp, thinking about the riders who saw that figure on the ridge, how fast he moved, how determined he was to stay hidden. And I wonder how far he went before the meth finally burned out. Did he understand how lost he was, or is he still there, deep in the timber? Nothing left but instinct and hunger slipping through the trees like a ghost. But that's not the worst of it. The worst is what I started thinking in the months after that operation, a thought that won't let me go. What if he didn't want to be found? Not because of paranoia, not from shame, not fear of being arrested. What if he found something out there, in the woods, something that made him stay, something that changed him so much he couldn't come back to a normal life? What if the forest didn't take him physically, but in some other way? I know how that sounds. Crazy. But the more I think about it, the more the details don't add up. Why leave the phone so carefully placed? Why scatter items like he was marking a route? Why vanish that fast, that clean? Why did the dogs lose the scent with no rain, no stream crossings to wash it out? Why show up in front of hikers, not asking for help, not making contact, just watching and running, like he was testing something, studying, like he wasn't fully human anymore? One of the volunteers reached out 6 months later, said he couldn't forget, said he kept thinking about the oddities. We met, had a beer, talked, and he told me something I didn't know. On the last night, after the official stand down, he stayed an extra hour, alone. sat by the dead fire smoking, and he heard a voice from the woods, quiet, barely there, calling his name. He stood up, walked to the edge of camp, swept his light into the trees, and saw a figure, standing between the trunks, 30 meters out, motionless, staring at him. He called out, asked who was there. No answer, just standing. Then the figure slowly, very slowly, raised an arm and pointed deeper into the forest, like it was inviting him to follow. The volunteer stood there, paralyzed, his head screaming, "It's him, the missing hiker, go!" But something louder was screaming back, Don't go in there, it's a trap, or worse, that's not him anymore." He didn't go, turned around and walked back to his tent. When he looked over his shoulder a minute later, the figure was gone, only darkness. He didn't tell anyone back then, afraid they'd say he was exhausted or losing it, but it stuck with him, the same way the whole case sticks with me. I asked if he saw the face. He shook his head, too far, too dark, but the outline fit, height, build, and the clothes, flannel shirt, jeans, what our missing guy was wearing. We sat in silence for a while, then he asked, "You think he's still out there?" "I don't know," I said, "but yeah, I think so. And I don't think he's alone. I think there are others, people who got lost, who didn't want to come back, or couldn't, who became part of the forest, who forgot language, forgot faces, forgot why they were people at all." The volunteer gave me a strange look, then nodded. "You know, I thought that too," he said. "When that figure pointed deeper in, I could have sworn there were more, farther back, in the dark. A few shapes, still, waiting. Maybe I imagined it," he added quickly. "Maybe it was shadows, but I'm not sure." We didn't talk about it again, finished our beers, and went home. But the seed was planted. The idea that there's something in those woods, not bears, not wolves, people. People who stopped being fully human, stuck between worlds, watching. I started digging into other disappearances in that area. There were more than I thought. 14 people gone in 20 years. 14. In the same patch of forest. Some were found, dead, but 5 were never found at all. They just vanished. I read the reports. A few cases had the same patterns. Items neatly placed, signs of drug use, scent lost quickly, strange sightings after the searches were stood down. One case got under my skin. 38-year-old woman, disappeared 8 years ago. Solo hike, never came back. They searched 2 weeks, found her pack, tent, sleeping bag, all neatly set by the trail, but not her. 3 years later, a mushroom hunter swore he saw her, alive, filthy, feral-looking, but alive. She was at a creek, scooping water with her hands. He called out. She lifted her head, looked at him, and ran. He tried to follow. She was too fast, vanished into the brush like a deer. Rangers went out again, found nothing, called the man an unreliable witness, closed the file for good. But I think he saw her. I think she's there, same as our guy. Maybe a few others too, living in the woods, hiding, drifting to the edge now and then to watch people, then slipping back. Why? I don't know. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they forgot how to be anything else. Maybe the forest holds them. Maybe they're afraid of the world. Maybe it's comfortable there. Maybe it's freedom you can't find anywhere else. Or maybe it's something else, something we don't understand, something old, something that lives where maps go blurry, and it gathers those who stray too far from the trail, the weak, the sick, the intoxicated, the ones who can't fight it. I know how insane that sounds. I'm a rescuer. I work with facts, coordinates, evidence. But the facts here don't fit a normal picture. Something is outside the frame, something unexplained. So here's what I decided. I don't go into those woods alone anymore. And if I'm leading a team, we stay tight. No stragglers, no stepping behind trees without a partner. Because I've seen what happens. I've seen people disappear, and I've seen that sometimes they don't disappear completely. Sometimes they stay. Somewhere between here and there, between human and something else. The missing guy's family is still looking. His mom writes every few months, asks if there's anything new. I tell her no. I don't mention the sightings. I don't tell her about the figure in the woods that beckoned the volunteer. I don't say what I think, that he's out there, alive, but not the son she remembers. How do you say that to a mother? How do you say her son might be roaming the forest? Feral, lost, name forgotten, that he might have seen the tents, heard us shouting his name, and chose not to answer. Because he doesn't understand why anymore. Or can't, or won't. How do you tell her that maybe one day she'll walk into that forest and see him? A flicker between the trees, filthy, gaunt, empty-eyed. He'll look at her for a heartbeat, and she'll know her child. She'll reach out, call to him, and he'll turn and run, because she's a stranger now. The whole world is a stranger. Only the forest remains. I can't tell her that, so I write. No updates. I'm so sorry. We haven't forgotten. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. And I keep thinking about him, the man I never met, who became more than just another missing person. He became a question without an answer, a fear that whispers when I'm alone in the woods. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up thinking I hear a cough outside the window, a throat being cleared, shuffling steps. I get up, look out. Nothing there, of course. Only darkness. But the feeling stays, that someone was there, standing and watching, and then was gone. And I wonder if he ever came here, to town, or others, the ones from the woods. Do they come to the edge sometimes? Look at the houses, the lights, the people? Do they remember they were once like us? Do they want to come back? Or not anymore? Too far gone, too long, too different. I don't know, probably never will, but I think about it, often, too often. Every time I go into the forest, I look back over my shoulder. I listen. I stare into the dark between the trees. I search for movement, for a shape, for eyes, because now I know the forest is alive. Not the way people say, not as a metaphor. Literally, it breathes, it takes, it holds, and it doesn't always give back. And the ones it takes, they're still there. They walk, they hide, they watch, they wait maybe. For what? I don't know. Maybe for the next one. Maybe for us. Maybe just for it all to end. But they're there. That much I know. And our guy is among them, somewhere deep. In that section of forest we searched end to end and found nothing. He's there, drifting between trees, eating what he finds, drinking from creeks, sleeping in leaves or caves, running when he hears voices, hiding when he sees light, living like an animal, or a ghost, or something in between. And at night, maybe he remembers, in fragments, faces, voices, smells, remembers there was another life, walls and warmth and a name. His name, the one he forgot. Maybe he's afraid, or maybe not. Maybe it's good there. Quiet, no questions, no expectations, no disappointments, just the forest, just the trees, just wind and rain and the turning of seasons. Maybe he's free. Finally free. And we, the ones who search, we think we're saving them. We think we're helping, but maybe we're the enemy. Maybe we're the ones trying to drag them back into a cage, into a world that crushed them so hard they ran to the only place left to disappear. I don't know. They're just thoughts. Tired, frayed, paranoid thoughts from someone who's seen too much, lost too many, no longer sure where the job ends and the obsession begins. But I keep thinking, keep looking for answers, keep glancing over my shoulder. Because there is something out there in the woods, someone, and maybe one day I'll learn what or who, or maybe I won't. Maybe it's a question that isn't meant to have an answer, a mystery that should stay a mystery, a place you don't go. But I still think about him. The guy who sat down on the trail, asked his friend to grab meds, and vanished. Just vanished. And somewhere deep down I know he's still out there, watching. A year passed after that search. I went back to regular life, back to work, to other calls, other missing persons. Some we found fast, some we never found at all. That's the job. You learn not to attach. You learn to let go. Or so I thought. This one didn't let go. It hung on me like weight, leaked into my sleep, followed me into quiet moments. Driving the highway, I'd catch myself scanning the tree lines, hunting for shapes, for movement, checking the shoulder for someone filthy, gaunt, absent-eyed, walking to nowhere. No one was ever there, of course, but I checked every time. My coworkers noticed, asked if I was okay. Yeah, just tired, I'd say. They knew better. In this work, everyone has that one case, the one that breaks something inside. They understood. The coordinator from that operation retired 6 months later. We crossed paths at a conference, grabbed coffee, talked about work, family, plans. Then he went quiet, looked out the window, and said, "I still think about that guy. What we could have done differently." I nodded. Me too. He shook his head. In 30 years, I've lost count of who we pulled out and who we didn't. But this one feels different. I can't say why, just different. We sat in silence. Then he added, "Remember those sightings after we shut it down? Hikers who said they saw someone? I remember. What if that wasn't him?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," he said. "Guy on meth, weak, no food, no water, in the woods, 5 days before the first sighting. How did he survive? How was he moving so fast no one could catch him? It doesn't add up." "What does?" I asked, though I knew where he was going. He shrugged. "Maybe someone else, someone who lives out there, someone who watched the search and decided to play."
Show himself to people. Make us think the missing guy was alive.
Why? That I don't know. Loneliness? Madness? Maybe just because. We went our separate ways after that, but his words stuck, because he said out loud what I'd been thinking and didn't want to admit. What if it really wasn't him? What if our guy died in the first hours or days? Overdose, exposure, whatever. And the person the hikers saw was someone else entirely. Someone who's been there a long time, not pretending, just existing. Which means we were hunting a ghost and found a monster. I started digging for real, not just reading reports, calling witnesses, asking questions, driving out to the sites. The hiker who saw the figure behind the blowdown that first month agreed to meet. I went to his place. We sat on the porch. He made tea and told me what he saw. I was walking the trail, he said. Clear day. Quiet. I stopped to drink some water and felt it. That prickle on the back of your neck. Someone watching. "I know it," I said. I turned and saw him. 20 meters out. Crouched behind a downed trunk, head poking over, watching me. Didn't move. Just watched. "Did you call out?" "Yeah." Shouted, "Hey, you okay?" He didn't answer, just kept staring, so I started toward him. Figured maybe he needed help. Took 3 steps, and he was gone. Not ran. Gone. 1 second there, the next. Nothing. Like he dissolved. I went to the log, he said. No one. Looked around. No tracks. Nothing. But there was a smell. What smell? He grimaced. Heavy. Rotten. Like something died and had been lying there a long time. I thought maybe a dead deer nearby, but I didn't find anything. The smell just hung in that one spot, nowhere else. "And you're sure it was a person?" He went quiet, then nodded slowly. Then I was sure. Human outline, head, arms, shoulders, clothes, I think. But now when I try to pull details, the more I try, the less sure I am. Maybe it was a person. Or maybe it was something that wanted me to think it was a person. We wrapped up. I thanked him and drove back, turning his words over the whole way. Something that wanted me to think it was a person. Next was the camper whose gear got rummaged. He'd moved out of state, but agreed to a call. He said he woke in the night to a sound, rustling. Figured raccoon or some critter. Lay there listening. The rustling kept going. Too long. Too deliberate. I stepped out, he said. Hit the flashlight. My pack was open. Stuff pulled out, nobody around. I walked the site, checked everything. Empty. But the fire was out. I hadn't put it out. When I turned in, it was still glowing, now soaked. Coals cold and wet. You didn't see who did it? No, but I heard footsteps when I got back in the tent. Soft, light. like someone barefoot on dirt. They went around the tent, a few slow circles, then stopped, right at the door. I could see the shadow through the fabric, a figure, standing, a long time. 2-3 minutes maybe. I didn't breathe, didn't move. Then it left, footsteps fading. I waited till dawn, came out, checked the ground, no tracks at all. Even mine looked like there were fewer than there should have been. That was the last thing he said before we hung up. Even my tracks looked like fewer than there should have been. I think about that still. What does that mean? That someone wiped them away? Or that no tracks remained because whatever was walking doesn't leave tracks? I reached out to the park rangers about incident stats over the years. They were reluctant, but shared. Turns out for 3 years before our case and 2 after, reports of strange activity quadrupled. People reported gear missing from tents, night noises, figures seen in the woods, the feeling of being watched. Most chalked it up to animals, imagination, fatigue. But some insisted they saw clearly a person, or something that looked like a person, filthy, thin, fast, avoiding contact, avoiding light.
Hiding. Rangers ran several sweeps, checked remote areas, looked for illegal camps, homeless, users, anyone. Found nothing. No tents, no fire rings, no trash. Nothing to suggest anyone living out there long term. They didn't find camps, but they found other things. Strange marks on trees, scratches too high for animals, stone piles stacked into odd shapes, gnawed bones, not animal, shreds of fabric on branches, human hair caught in brush. One ranger found a tooth, a human molar, lying on the trail, fresh. Still blood on it. They sent it for analysis. DNA didn't match any of the missing, logged it in the database. No hits. The tooth stayed unidentified. I asked for the photos of those finds, studied them at home in the evenings, tried to see a pattern, a message, territorial markers, a ritual, or just chaos. I couldn't tell, but the longer I looked, the stronger it felt. This wasn't random. Someone left these on purpose, to be found, to be known, to say, I'm here, I control this ground, this forest is mine. I went back. I know I shouldn't have. Stupid move. But I couldn't help it. Took time off, packed a bag, drove out, parked where base camp had been a year before, now just a dirt pull-off. No sign anyone had ever been there, no tents, no tracks, nothing. Shouldered the pack and took the trail. Gray day. Overcast. Quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no wind. Just my footsteps and my own breathing. I reached the spot where we'd found the phone and the gear. It hadn't changed. Same trees, same little clearing. Only the leaves were different. Autumn reds and yellows. I stood there, looking around, trying to feel something, to understand what happened here a year ago. And I felt it. That stare. The one the hikers described. Pins at the back of the neck, the sense of eyes. I froze, turned slowly. Nothing. Just trees, trunks, shadows in between. I stared into the dark gaps, trying to catch a shape, a figure, a twitch. Nothing. But the feeling didn't fade. It grew stronger. Someone was there, close, watching. Hey, I shouted. If you're out there, come out. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk. Silence. Then a snap of a branch. Left. I whipped the light. Nothing. Another snap. Right. Then behind me. Circling, or one person, moving fast. Very fast. My heart hammering, palms slick. I started backing up, toward the trail, toward the exit, eyes scanning, waiting for the next sound. And then I saw it. A flicker of a figure, maybe 50 meters out between the trees, standing still, watching. I blinked, and it was gone. I ran, not proud of it, but I ran. Down the trail back to the car, didn't look back, just ran, heard footsteps behind me. Or thought I did. Didn't matter. I burst onto the dirt road, got to the car, climbed in, slammed the door, started the engine, drove. Only after a kilometer did I pull over to breathe, hands shaking, cold sweat all over.
I checked the rear view, empty road, and saw it. At the forest's edge, by the shoulder, a figure, standing, watching the car, thin, hunched, in rags, too far to see the face, but human by the outline. I froze, hand on the key, staring into the mirror. The figure didn't move, just stood there. Then, slowly, it raised an arm and waved at me. I hit the gas and didn't look back. Drove an hour to town on autopilot. Don't remember the road, just the figure in the mirror. That slow wave, almost friendly. But something in it was wrong. Mocking, like it was saying, I know who you are, I know why you came, and I'm warning you, don't come back. I didn't go back. Another 6 months passed. I tried to forget. Tried to tell myself it was imagination, stress, exhaustion, paranoia. But deep down, I knew someone is out there, alive. Someone who doesn't want to be found and will do anything to keep it that way. Then a letter came from the missing man's mother. She wrote that she was going there, to the forest. She couldn't wait anymore.
She would search herself. She felt he was there, calling to her, and she had to go. I called her, begged her not to, said it was dangerous, said she wouldn't find anything, said it had been a year and a half. He couldn't have survived that long. She wouldn't listen, said her mind was made up, said if she didn't come back, let people know she tried, that she didn't abandon her son. She hung up. I reached out to the rangers, warned them, asked them to keep an eye out. They promised to try to talk her down, but they couldn't hold her. If she chose to go, that was her right. She went, alone. A pack, a flashlight, a map. Rangers walked her to the trailhead. She wouldn't let them go farther. She wanted to be alone. A day passed, no sign. The rangers got worried and went in, found her fast. She was sitting in the same clearing where we'd found her son's belongings a year before, sitting on the ground, arms wrapped around her knees, rocking, murmuring. They approached, called to her. She lifted her head, eyes empty, face smeared with dirt, lips cracked. She looked through them, didn't recognize them, or didn't want to. I saw him, she whispered. He's there, in the trees, watching me, all covered in mud, so thin. But it was him, my boy. I called, but he didn't answer, just watched, then left. I tried to follow, but he's fast, so fast. He'd disappear, then show up somewhere else, like there were more than one, or he learned how to be everywhere at once. They walked her out and took her to a hospital. Shock, dehydration, early hypothermia. She recovered physically, not mentally. She kept insisting she'd seen her son, that he was alive, that he was there, changed into something else. But still him. The psychiatrist said trauma, stress-induced hallucinations, prescribed therapy and medication. She refused, said she wasn't crazy, said she knew what she saw, signed herself out, went home. I never heard from her again. But her case forced action. The rangers closed that section of forest. Officially, fire risk. Unofficially, too many incidents, too many oddities. They figured 6 months closed might calm things down. It didn't. They closed the zone and people stopped going there legally. But the forest is big. You can't watch everything. In the first month after the closure, 3 people went missing, not inside the closed area. Near it, on adjacent trails. They found one girl 2 days later, sitting by a creek, barefoot, no pack, soaked, staring into the water. When they brought her out, she wouldn't speak. At all. Days passed. Then she started. But what she said was strange. She said she'd been walking with someone she met in the woods, a man. He offered to show her a shortcut. She agreed, followed him. He led her a long time, loops, through thickets, off trail. She tried to memorize the route. She couldn't. Everything blurred. Then night fell. He stopped, said she would go on alone from here, turned and walked away. She shouted, "Wait, don't leave me." He didn't turn back, melted into the dark. She tried to retrace her steps, got lost, fell into the creek, pulled herself out, sat on the bank and waited for morning. That's where they found her. Her description of the man who led her was blurry.
She barely remembered. Tall or short, definitely thin, filthy. There was a smell, strong. Clothes, old, torn. She never saw the face. He stayed ahead of her, never turning. His voice was strange, raspy, like he hadn't spoken in a long time. He said only a few words. Come. This way. Enough. That's all. The other two were never found. A young couple, out for a 2-day hike. They didn't come back. They're still missing. 4 months now. Nothing. They found their tent, pitched in a clearing, intact. Inside, gear, sleeping bags, food, everything in its place. But no one there, like they stood up in the night, stepped out barefoot and walked into the woods, and dissolved. I follow the news, read the reports, collect anything I can. It's become an obsession. I know. I can't stop. Feels like the answer is close. Like one more piece and it all clicks. The puzzle finally makes sense. I finally understand what's happening out there. Or I don't. Maybe some things aren't meant to be understood. Maybe some places should be left alone. Mysteries that are dangerous to open. Creatures, or people, or something in between, that don't want to be found. And that wish should be respected. Because if it isn't, they'll remind you. And that reminder might be the last thing you ever hear. Our guy is still out there. I'm certain. 1 year and 8 months in the forest. No help. No contact. No human touch. What's left of his mind, his body, his soul? Is he still human, or has he become something else? Something adapted, something feral, something that belongs to the forest, not to us. And he's not alone, is he? How many others? How many missing over the years slipped in and never came back? How many took the forest as home, forgot who they were, now drift between trees, avoiding people, hiding, living by their own rules? Did they make a community, a tribe, a family, or is each one alone, predators on their own ground, competing, or cooperating, helping each other survive, the way the first humans did thousands of years ago, before cities, before tech, before anything we call civilization? Did they go back to the beginning, to the way we were meant to live, to the wildness that was always inside, smothered by rules and laws and morals? Did they free themselves or curse themselves to a life worse than any prison? I don't know, no one does, but I think about it every day, every night. I see his face, though we never met, hear his voice, though he never spoke to me, feel him near me wherever I am, like he's watching, across distance, across time, across the line between his world and mine. And sometimes on the darkest nights when I can't sleep, I imagine I get up, get dressed, drive out there to the forest, park, take the trail, go in, deeper, deeper still, until I reach the place where the maps run out, where the trails disappear, where the territory begins, their territory. I stop, I call, and I wait, and someone steps out of the shadows, thin, filthy, empty-eyed, and looks at me, and I look back, and we understand each other, without words, understand that he made a choice, and I have to respect it, and leave him there, for good. I turn around and walk away. I don't come back, I don't think about it, I don't search, I don't ask, I let go, finally let go. But not yet. I'm not ready. Maybe I never will be, because letting him go means admitting we lost, that the forest is stronger, that there are things we don't control and people we can't save, even if they're a mile away, even if they're alive, even if, technically, we could find them and bring them back. Maybe some shouldn't be brought back. Maybe they're where they're meant to be, where they chose to be, whether they knew it or not. Maybe bringing them back would be a kind of violence, an intrusion, a breaking of something they've built, no matter how strange it looks from the outside. I sit with these thoughts, try to make peace, try to understand, try to forgive, myself, him, the forest, everyone. And I know one day an answer will come, or I'll come to it. What form it takes, I don't know. For now, I'm here. He's there. The forest lies between us, And the story never ends, because there is no ending. Only questions, and silence, and wind in the trees, and footsteps in the dark, and the feeling of being watched, always watched, waiting for something. What, I don't know. Maybe me, maybe someone else, maybe just waiting. Because time runs differently out there, and you can wait forever.
Here's what I've learned. After the searches, the interviews, the sightings, the sleepless nights, the obsessive thoughts, the forest isn't a place. It's a being, alive, thinking, choosing. It doesn't take people at random. It takes those who are ready. The broken, the ones looking for a way out, the ones tired of the world, the ones who want to disappear. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't. But the wanting is there. The forest feels it, opens, invites. And the ones who accept, they go. For good. Our guy was ready. He was looking for it, maybe without knowing. When the forest called, he answered. He didn't run from something. He ran toward something. Toward freedom, toward forgetting, toward a new life with no past, no future, only now, only trees, only wind, only breath, heartbeat, and simple needs, food, water, warmth. Everything else is excess. Maybe he's happy, as much as a person can be after he stops being entirely a person, becomes part of something older, truer. We won't understand it. We're tied to our world, to comforts, to connections, to meanings we invented. For some, the thought of life without all that is terror. For others, it's release. So I don't look for him anymore. Not for real. In my head, sure, but I don't try to find him. Because I understand he doesn't want to be found. And that has to be respected, even if it hurts, even if it makes no sense, even if it feels wrong. Everyone has the right to disappear, if it's their choice. Even if the choice was made in an altered state, even if the consequences are permanent, it's still a choice. Taking it away means taking the last freedom a person has. I'm not telling this to get answers. There aren't any. I'm telling it as a warning. Be careful in the forest, not just with bears and cliffs. Be careful with yourself, with what can wake up inside you when you're alone among trees, with the call you might hear. If you hear it, think twice before you answer. Some calls can't be ignored. And some paths run only one way. No return. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for watching.